Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is a really great episode because these are some of my favorites where we get to do open lines because there's not too much going on in the past week, and oftentimes I go, oh God, we don't have anything to talk about. And then whenever we get just open calls, we talk about so many fun things, and so it's going to be a really good one. We've got an amazing guest on this week. But first, let me introduce my co-host. It's none other than Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
Good. My split wrapped up on Friday. We have two new teams in NACLs. We had two teams promote. And yeah, I have now been catching up on VODs of other regions. So got a couple more of EU to go through, and then I've got one more. I got to go through the NACL final still, which I've kind of been holding off on because I do a reflection stream, but it's been fun. I snuck out for a good meal on Saturday, and I cracked open Balaltro for the first time, and that game's gonna suck my time a little bit in the off season. That one's really fun.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm glad you had a good time. Who were the teams that promoted? And I assume that also means two teams got relegated.
Yeah, so Lit and Mirage Alliance got relegated. Mirage Alliance had like the Dardoch, Prismal, Saligo, Neo, Alorum, so a lot of familiar names. And yeah, the Blue Otters just got promoted in, so congrats to them. I think their jungler and mid laner are quite good in Music and Samakin. It was his first split for Samakin. And then the other team was CCG, and that was expected to go in. So your old team, or I guess TL member Bradley, he's playing mid now, but he was on that squad. And Bradley was probably the best player in the tournament, so he played really well. So it was fun.
So wait, Dardoch is still playing competitive League of Legends?
Yeah, he was playing support all split, and then he swapped over to jungle, and they didn't make it through. So they lost to CCG and then lost to Blue Otters, so the two teams that made it in.
Wild. I had
Yeah.
no idea. Well, this past week has been really fun for me. I had my first weekend off in a long time. Kobe was in New Mexico for a vacation, so I had the whole place to myself, and I just relaxed.
Ooh.
And you did all the things that are so nice to do whenever you have an entire apartment to yourself, and so it was a great time.
Good
Oh,
for
and I
you.
also beat Fallout New Vegas, which was really fun. I'd obviously played it 14 years ago, but for those that have been following around on my streams and stuff, they might know that I've been playing it, and so I went through and beat it, and very excited about the show coming out this week. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, because I think you're going to watch it too, right?
Yeah, I should. I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to get Mark involved, or Rafa. So
Nice.
yeah.
Very good. Oh, yeah, you need to see if you can get any of your friends to come to the OTJ pre-release I'm doing this Sunday, because I know you're going
I'm
to that.
in.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I can try and do some recruiting, so it'll be fun.
all right. Well, none other than CoreJJ is our guest for this week's episode. How's it going, Core?
Hello. Um, After finishing the HS, I've been having a good times right now. Good
Yeah.
break.
What have you been doing? What do you do in your downtime? Because I feel like you, especially during the season, you just play League of Legends. You just grind, grind, grind. So what do you do whenever you have a little bit of a break?
So, well, this break I played some Phasmophobia.
Ooh.
Phasmophobia? Okay.
Yeah, I and then just watching the other Legends game
Nice.
and bunch of contents.
Are there any other region games that you really enjoyed?
I mean, ACK is always fun to watch. I mean, I was actually not playing League for a long time, and then after playing Genji versus Hana Life game, how Chobi played well,
Yeah.
and it that inspired me playing back to League again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Honestly, I don't know if when was the last time, Corey, you think you've seen like a bigger individual performance like from a single player? Because I know a lot of people are talking about like how he kind of 1v9'd, and that was just a crazy series to watch.
Uh, yeah, I mean, Chobi made some of those series in the past, and I don't know, like those type of performances probably 2017 Faker.
Yeah.
Five Galio games. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I remember that series. That was fun.
I do see an audio video desync, folks. I'm gonna disconnect from Skype and then I'll rejoin the call and we'll see if that ends up fixing it. If we have any audio or video issues this episode, for everyone who is unfamiliar, I was just saying this before the start of the show, but I have switched from XSplit to OBS. I had many people mock me for many years about using XSplit, and I kept using it because I just felt like there were some pretty good features to it. For instance, the audio video did not get desynced like this. So, Cubby, what are you most excited for this week?
Oh, I mean, a lot of regions start wrapping up. Like, I think we'll know who's in for LEC and LCK, and then LPL takes a bonus week, I think. But I'm just like, for me, this is a really fun time of year because especially in those regions, like there are more than 2 good teams, even if they're only sending 2. So it's really fun to see who gets to go international. And kind of like what Core was saying, I was staying up and watching the LCK games, and they've been quite fun. I'm really glad that Rek'Sai's nerfed on the patch after LCK because that champion is disgusting to watch, but it has actually been made for some really fun series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been good. Well, I think before we get into calls a little bit tonight, first off, I wanted to say thank you to our show sponsor, which is all of you. I did see a scam train going in the Twitch chat a little bit earlier. A bunch of folks over supporting on YouTube. And then throughout the week, I just want to say I've been noticing several people will sometimes, especially when the show drops, just, I'll get a little notification through my link tree that says that somebody sent, $5 or something. And so all of that is very much appreciated. Thank you all for doing that. If you are watching on YouTube, or even I think on the podcast descriptions, you all have to tell me, but I think we have a link to my link tree that allows you to support the show that way. Well, we don't have sponsors, and we've been working on it for the last couple months, but it's still been a bit of a dry spell. So if you have a Prime sub or anything like that, I will gladly take that too. All of that is very helpful. Also should mention that it does not look, I think in part because, and definitely in part because of this, I do not have a sponsor to send me to MSI. So unfortunately, and kind of heartbreaking for me, it will be the first event outside of, I guess, COVID times where I have not been able to attend. I've always gone to throughout my entire career, I've gone to every LCS finals, every MSI, every Worlds, et cetera, but unfortunately, it's just not in the cards. It was pretty expensive to get all the way to Chengdu and that type of stuff. So, but I understand, from what I understand, I'm not the only media that's going to have to skip this. I think it's just the way that the industry is right now. So, while it doesn't necessarily make me feel better to know that other folks are in the same position as I am, it also at least makes me feel like it is more of a systemic issue rather than anything going on with my own stuff. So just want to announce that we will still be doing live hotline leagues on the around that schedule to talk about the games and how everything's progressing and how Team Liquid's kicking ass. But unfortunately, we will not be having on-site coverage from Chengdu. So that's the way it is. Regardless, let's talk a little bit to Core. I mean, Cubby, this is the first time since Jan and Spawn were on that we've had a chance to talk to somebody from Team Liquid, and especially the first time since they won. So I don't know, Cubby, if you have any questions for Core about his season or anything before we get into callers and let everybody put their takes in and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. We have a couple callers, obviously, that have takes about winning Core, but I did want to ask you, because for me, one of the coolest moments of you guys winning was actually the interview you gave as a team afterwards. It kind of felt like you guys all kind of came together and had your moment, and you had a really wide range of emotions from feeling like you made it, and then you backing up APA. What was it like? For you being up there and kind of was that something that you expected out of yourself and your team? Did you kind of know that that was going to be the moment if you guys won? What was that like for you being back in the winner's circle and having a really fun team interview?
Well, I expected Omti to be emotional. I was curious if Omti was gonna cry or not. I mean, he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I expected Impact to feel nothing. It looks nothing. And then one thing I didn't expect was that Yon start trash talking onto the Vipo and then Inspire. That was like, oh wow, oh wow moment. And then, I took a chance that maybe I can say something funny.
Yeah. No, I mean it worked. That whole
It
interview was
hit.
super
Yeah.
fun. And it kind of capped off a split where I felt as though we had a lot of personality from a lot of different teams, a lot of trash talking and all that. Obviously, I know APA trash talks and Whippo and Jensen were saying a lot of stuff. But, Corey, I mean, have you felt more tension in the league, or does any of this stuff get to you when you have all these big personalities all saying all this different stuff during Spring Split?
I mean, I used to shit talk a lot on the Twitter. I mean, like since last year, when I was not doing well, I was wanting to focus on myself more. So that I was like, stay a little bit away from there. And, once I had a chance, I couldn't stop expressing myself.
Yeah, that's funny. It's been a really good time, I feel like, in spring, just to see all of the players really putting themselves out there. How are you all preparing for MSI? Are you going to boot camp at all, or are you finding scrims in these couple of weeks? I mean, obviously there's like a month-long break, but yeah, how's Team Liquid preparing for the event?
Yeah, I mean, sooner we're gonna go to the Korea to play some solo queue, and then I don't know where, and then we're gonna do some boot camp to scrim versus like MSI team or HK teams. So I think we will be well prepared.
Nice. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing what all of you can do. It's been really exciting seeing the team just level up over the course of the split. What do you think it was about playoffs that allowed you all to become so aggressive and monstrous as a team, especially compared to earlier on in the split?
I mean, because of the VO1, we couldn't show how we can play in the early season. But the one thing I liked about this team is that we were playing like our playoff even in the beginning of the split during the scrims, but we were not like as good as our playoff time. Um, we developed every comp by little bit. Every time when we finished the game, um, we played well by 2 minutes. Next game we played well by 2 minutes, sorry, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So we get like it was like long time, but we get better and better, even though it's not a lot. So
Yeah.
that at least by the end of playoffs, we get better than HS teams.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool to see
Yeah.
you all level up. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you guys played map like really, really well throughout all playoffs. I know you got credit for that in the back half, but even early on, it was really fun to see you guys like stay so aggressive. And I like one last thing before we get in the callers core. I know that you've always been really involved in the team. Like I remember, like I covered scouting grounds in the past. I remember that you were working with Jan before, he worked on or was on your team. I helped out Spawn with like
Yeah.
building out that academy roster with you, where like you were one of the coaches, and one lobby was you and Spawn, another one was like me and Hatham. Um, like what kind of do you feel like you owe Team Liquid something? Is this something where it's just your comfort zone, like being this involved with a team? Like, what kind of motivates you, like top down, to like be really involved? Then I know you really wanted to win this one. Like, did that because you've been so involved with TL? Did it mean more to you to win after a break of not holding the trophy this split?
Um, I think at first I think I'm having fun doing those things,
Yeah,
helping the players that you know in the team, and I always think that having a really strong academy team or whoever I can practice better is very important for him and myself as well. So if there's anything I can help that doesn't bother me well, then I'm always happy.
Well, that's well said. It's been really exciting to see how you have been a part of the league for so long and helped cultivate all sorts of talent. And you and Jan, I think in particular, especially in playoffs, I think it was just really awesome to see. So glad it was good for you.
Yeah.
Cubby, do you want to go ahead and give the spiel on how callers work?
Yeah, so we've got Core with us today. If you guys want to call in, have a take with him, you can go to discord.gg/Travis or type in the command Discord to find it in the chat. Hop in, at me, drop your take, and the best ones I throw in the waiting room, and then I'll come grab you, and you can come talk with Core and ask your questions. So take advantage of it. Like, we've had great guests of late, and I'm excited to see like kind of what you guys come up with to pick Core's brain. So I think in terms of topics, I know it was a slower week, Travis, but obviously anything TL related is great. But I also know that there was some roster rumor news with C9 and the Inspired interview blew up for whatever reason. I'm sure I saw a couple takes about that. I'm sure we'll take one. Is there anything else like you want to highlight that you might want to hear about, Travis?
I think these nights are often really great for folks who have just sort of a general broad take. For years now, I feel whenever we have an episode like this, kind of what I was saying at the start of the show, you think, oh, well, maybe there's not too much to talk about. But then folks come in with like crazy ideas on like how to change the format or how, expectations for MSI or a narrative about a team that everybody missed during the spring split. And so really excited to hear from all of you on what it is that you are most excited about and to talk about, And so we'll be looking for maybe some more off the wall takes tonight or whatever, in addition as to the Team Liquid takes, CoreJJ questions, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's going to be a really great episode for everybody. But yeah, also to add on to what Cubby was saying, if you are a sub, make sure, or a member over on YouTube, make sure that you sync your stuff with Discord so you can access the subtopics channel. You can put your take there. It moves a little slower. And so we always really appreciate folks there. It doesn't guarantee you on the show, but does kind of help you get on if the pleb topics is moving pretty quickly. And we do try to pull from both of those a little bit as well. So that's a great option for you. And then other than that, while Cubby is filling up the waiting room and grabbing folks, I do want to just shout out some folks who subbed. Thank you to, let's see. Oh, we got a whole bunch here because of the scam train. Nickelodeon, Steve the Sloth, Beans, Better Call Saul, Rennie the Croc, Yeshua, Cubby, thank you, Cubby, Elias, Carl's Jr., Sweet Be Good, Alter Ego, Smirk, and Sweet Be Good gifted a sub to Steve. Over on YouTube, we got Rat Town with the 10 gifted, Colin, Austin Kane with the $5 who wants them to bring back Jat Stats, John, Rat Town with another 10 gifted. Thank you, Rat Town. It's very generous of you. And then Tyler, thank you, everybody, for the support. We've got some more subs, but we'll shout those out after our next caller, our first caller, who is here right now. It's Lord Audie. Lord Audie, where are you calling from?
Queens, New York.
Queens, New York. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
I just wanted to speak to Core about the path coming from the worst performance from 23 to the off season, and then just like building into this team as this split went in, and then just adjusting the way that they play, coming from a team that has a history of not being that aggressive into one of the most aggressive teams coming into the finals. So I wanted to see, I don't know how involved you are into the roster changes that come into into the off season, but I don't know how much you can speak to that. But, coming from Worlds, the off season, and then just basically throughout the split about, how much of the story, how that play out into from your perspective.
Yeah, so Core, if there's anything that you have as a thought on sort of how the offseason shaped the aggression of the team.
To be honest, I think even last year, during the summer playoff timing, we were not that terrible. Than what people think. I think we were very close to beating the Energy, who shooting on the G9 on the finals. And I think when we went to the Worlds, I think we were pretty aggressive team last year as well. But one thing is that we mental boomed really hard during the Worlds. Like, sometimes it happened.
Mhm.
You go to our scrim was decent in the beginning, and then it was getting worse and worse and worse. And then we couldn't function well as a human being at the end. It was like terrible, so that we like it was like kind of expected we were getting shit on by everyone. But like our team was boomed.
Yeah.
So after that, yeah.
And so then
Um,
going into the offseason, you all picked up Umpty. How much do you think that he led to increasing the aggression of the team, or how did he change things up based off of your former teammate?
I think Umpty is very, 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 very positive guy, and then he's always positive, and then he tried to make the mood lighter. So I think I think he's doing very well doing those things. But I mean, well, how should I say? We get better. We get better mentally, and then I hope doesn't happen same thing in this MSI, because we were okay in the ACS last year too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that like Spawn mentioned like adding Umti. I know Spawn's very serious, and Umti obviously, he likes to have a good laugh about things, and he's a little bit more lighthearted. Like, I know like every team is gonna boom and like have issues. Like it just happens when everyone's competitive. But like throughout your career, and especially going international so many times, like what makes the boot camps harder on you guys? Is it just the fact that you're not home, or is it the better teams? Like, what do you feel like goes into that and almost makes it more difficult or stressful for you guys to just like practice and keep on improving?
So the hardest part is that like usually in NA, I can say, even though I pick Jarakan, I will not get punished. So just give me Jarakan in any position. That is possible. But like in international, if you play versus really good players, the matchup should go where matchup should go.
Mhm.
So that if you picked weak champion, they pick strong champion, you lose. So like you just need a lot of patience, adjusting a new matchup information. Because I think especially Eastern laners, they are really good at the laning page. They already build up the matchup thing, playing versus good players each other. So you usually need some time to follow up.
That makes sense. Speaking of the mental boom last year at Worlds, are you sad that you won't be facing R7 at MSI? I know some of your teammates really wanted to face them.
Yeah, man. Maybe even though R7 won, since we are already playing the tournament round, maybe it's hard to meet them.
Yeah.
But I wish I would like to meet Summit and Pyoshik. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
One
Lord Audie, do you
follow-up.
have a follow-up here?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the off season. Given that even though the additions of Omti and Impact drove some of the conversation, I think there was an equal or maybe louder part of the conversation that came with the players that were actually staying into the squad from APA and John. That it seems that the community had very strong opinions about that as it came from the off season, and then watching the players grow this split into becoming LCS champions. I just have to, wonder about, from your perspective, about having faith into your rookies and be able to like prove people wrong about how giving people a chance to actually learn and become better players actually can pay off. Like it's not always going to be a safe bet, but I mean, I guess it must feel good when it pays off, putting that faith into your rookies and be able to see them just succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year was tough year for APA because we were speaking Korean, so there was not many communication between um, APA and then the other team. So I was like a little bit worried about APA afterwards because since he's not involving a lot of feedback and then communicating with the team, I don't know him even though I play with him. Like I don't know his personality because I don't know if he get mental boom or like how he think because we didn't talk much. But so I think that's why there was many mental boom, right? Because when there is a problem from the players, we didn't talk enough to solve the problem. But this year, Impact and Omti consistently talking to the APA. You should do this. You should do this. APA is saying like, I need this. I need this. You should do this. You should do this. So they're constantly talking, which help us solve the many problems, even though we are not perfect, everybody. And then I'm really glad that APA get better and better. I mean, he was always good at his champions, but he is doing well what we wanted to do from him. So I'm actually glad like how well APA grew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you allow me one follow up onto that point about the APA champion pool, because
Sure,
it
real
was
quick.
it was very interesting to see it unfold throughout the split, in which teams were debating about whether they should ban like ASO and Six into him, but then like they would ban that and then they would get destroyed from the other side, and then they would ban bot lane and then they would let him have his champions, and then they would get destroyed and miss. So is that something that came into the team meetings when you were talking about draft and all that?
Well, obviously APA is good at his champion, but I think his normal champion is not that bad. So that I always think that him playing good champion in a right situation is better than him playing his confident champion in any situation. So yeah, there was not much talking about like we must pick this. This is our strategy or something.
He was also just right about Asol. Like everyone else picked up Asol, right?
Yeah.
His champion was filthy, and he was running like OQs and lower levels in NA. So there were some champs where he's also just like they were just good. It's like it was an APA champ in the past,
Yeah.
but like that champ's just good.
He was just ahead of the curve. Like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
but
people called him like a one trick and stuff. It's just funny.
but
He
the
was good
thing
at
is
old
like
Asol. Yeah.
like something like Acer, especially in NA, because APA is playing Acer, the other people think the champion is good. I mean, one trick is playing one trick champion, something like that. So maybe other player didn't try it.
Yeah.
That's
I
very
don't know
true.
that the champion's gross. Like seeing it now, like LPL is banning it, like that. It's getting blinded. Like that's when you know it's a problem. It's crazy actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Audie, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, want to shout out to my wife that introduced me to League of Legends, and Shout outs to Inspire for proving me right that he's a toxic player, and there are going to be changes on that roster because I said it last week.
Yeah, that was very true. Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
All right.
He did call the changes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that one. But anyway, I'm gonna go get the next caller.
All right. Thank you to Don Nardo for the 33 months, Magnarius, Swede for gifting a sub to Core, The Radish, Spud Tugger, Bowen, thank you for the 500 bits, Fragbite Light for 75 months. Oh my gosh. Glimmer Glen, Rat Town, over on both channels now, which is funny. Sabsef, and then We Just Played. Thanks everybody for the subs. We got our next caller here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hello, my name is wombatbaby, and I'm calling from Muncie, Indiana.
wombatbaby, and you're a little quiet. If you can get a little closer to your microphone, I'm not sure if you can.
Is that better?
Oh, that's much better. Yeah. What
Okay.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
All right, so my take is that FlyQuest and TL being the two finalists of spring makes a lot of sense because they're the only two LCS teams that still have their challengers rosters. This not only gives them teams to practice against that they won't leak strategies during playoffs, or if they're going to try weird stuff, such as like we saw the lane swaps in Europe with G2, if they want to do something like that. But it also gives the active LCS players a bit of a fire underneath them to keep grinding and to not slack off. And I think going off of that, I think that's a big reason why that C9 failed was because they didn't have that fire underneath them, pushing them to keep grinding. And that's why Fudge, Blabber, and Vulcan specifically, they had tendencies during the split just to sit around and wait to lose rather than trying to win. I know Whippo talked a lot about Fudge specifically. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that they Fudge clearly is about to see the ramifications, or has seen the ramifications supposedly, of sort of not doing well on the team this split. Yeah. And so it's hard for me to think that, that it's like, well, if only there was a challenger player that could replace him. But I do think there's a question of, in the past, C9 has made roster changes in the middle of the split when a player has underperformed. That has happened multiple times. And, they don't have just that pool of players waiting around to, throw into scrims and see how they're doing or to mix things up. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they would have done it this split because, obviously, they did have that pretty big uplift at the end of spring. So it's not like they were going into playoffs probably, terrified. I feel like they were always fairly confident. But I do think, perhaps we would have seen this team be a little bit different had they had the challenger team. Cubby, obviously, I know you're a huge proponent to the challenger stuff. What do you think?
I mean, I'm not gonna go with the back half. I don't want to say not having a secondary team doesn't light a fire underneath you. I will say that I know APA in his interview outside after they won, he thanked Romer and the team to help him prep. And I also know that with FlyQuest, their challengers team, I was actually a little bit worried for them going into finals because in that last week going into finals, as I'm sure Core can speak on, it's kind of hard to find scrim partners. Props to IMT, who were still kind of scrimming around. And I think that you guys were the only team that didn't scrim IMT because apparently every team that scrimmed IMT ended up losing on stage, which is kind of funny. They were the behind the scenes, devils, they're joking about it. But I know that FlyQuest Challengers, I was a little bit worried for them going into their final because they were practicing in service to their LCS team leading up to the finals. That's a easy scrim partner when you're deep into the season and a lot of teams aren't scrimming and you can lean on your secondary team. And in the case of both TLC and FlyQuest, but especially FlyQuest, who won Challengers League and were very dominant and have 4 players that I really feel are good enough to play in the league that Core's in, that is a big proponent, being able as a team to be hey, this team is going to play like this. We know, let's say you have to prep for an enemy top laner like Sniper in his pool. You can tell Surdy, hey, play these champions for this practice. We want to play these matchups. So you can kind of dictate practice. So I don't know if Core has more opinions on how the Challengers team might have helped you guys prepped leading up to finals, but it is nice to have that controlled environment, and that is something that C9 has talked about being a pro in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps a lot. But for us, if our challengers team made the final, we would have practiced a lot versus our challengers team. But for the last week, we practiced. Actually, for last week, we practiced versus, I guess, a FlyQuest.
Mhm.
And then mainly LLA teams because they made the finals too.
That makes sense. So you were not actually scrimming against your challenger team.
Yeah, I mean, if we need some specific like hidden strategy, we would scrim versus our academy team.
Yeah.
But this time, we didn't play much, but we scrimmed a decent amount in the early of the early of the season, and then more than that, I think having a one-on-one practice and 2v2 practice is very important. And then someone you can talk to, especially like what APA is saying, like Romo is actually staying with us, so that whenever APA think you wanna get some information about the mid lane matchup, they just play one-on-one for 2 hours.
Yeah, that is incredibly helpful, and I wish, and it's fascinating because in the past, C9's challenger team or academy team was considered to be such a strong, like such a strength for them because they had really great players on there. You often saw players that, Covey, you would be hyping up on, content or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were really deeply integrated too.
I know that specifically when LS was coaching for that brief stint, like he talked a lot about how he wanted to incorporate the 10-man. When they swapped Sven and King, they were talking a lot about how they were really practicing against those. And at the time, that C9 core was really strong. Like they were really, really good in challengers. But historically, you can also look at C9 and the value of their challengers teams. Like they used those teams to promote into LCS and made a lot of money off of selling those rosters and selling those spots. And I know that the argument that all the orgs made when they cut Challengers League was that it was a major expense. And so I think that like since it wasn't a bottom line helper, obviously the league talked Riot into not requiring it anymore. And it is, I think it's a little bit ironic that the two teams that actually have challengers teams ended up in the top two because it was a competitive playoff. And I know C9 really didn't show up on the day, but a lot of people were arguing that, it's likely three teams, including C9, that could have made it to MSI. But I think it does say something. Like I can especially speak to FlyQuest challengers who were very, very strong this split and were our top team for the last 2-3 months. Like that's a good practice partner to have. Like Claude is very good at the game. Their top laner Surdy is very good at playing for himself. And we saw Shaden on the LCS stage along with Chime. Like those are good players. So it can't not be valuable behind the scenes if you're going to build bottom up.
Well, and I think Steve is maybe watching because I see him in the user list on the chat. But like, what was funny was I was thinking about it after I saw somebody in my Discord was the ones that pointed this out to me, and then I shamelessly stole it to put it on Twitter and get impressions.
Yeah, you got the karma.
Yeah, that's how everybody does it. Cadril does it that way. A bunch of the Magic people do that. You just
Cadril sources his own Discord.
You just hang out in your Discord and you wait to rip memes and interesting facts. You share them on social as if they're yours. It's just fake credibility. But one of the things I was thinking about was that Steve actually it's ironic because TL, one of the two teams that still has a team, but Steve was a vocal voice on lifting the requirement for teams to have this. And one of the reasons he had said at the time was that he felt like there was not enough talent coming out of that pool and promoting. Now, obviously, at the time, I was frustrated by this because I was like, yeah, because teams don't hire these players. They just, will rotate a player from another region for a year and then give up on them. But it is funny. I do wonder if his thoughts have changed, especially given the success of the rookies on Team Liquid now, and especially the fact that the two teams that have kept their academy teams are the ones that made it to the finals. Like I definitely feel as though there's a lot of strength in having this secondary system that perhaps was not realized or was not seen previously. The other thing I should mention while we're on this topic is that I'm planning on doing an interview with Perry. We're still figuring stuff out, but notably a player who has announced, a lot. He was very hyped up. I mean, Cubby, I feel like you had talked about Perry in high esteem for a while. Yeah.
Like he wasn't on the top of my jungle list, but he was good. He's a smart player. I mean, when I look at TL and the last two teams you've had, Core, you couldn't do the project that you tried without having Harry yawn, and then also having APA step in. And keep in mind that a lot of people, especially after Worlds, were kind of clamoring like APA and yawn aren't good enough. Like if we're gonna make changes, it needs to change these two. And not only sticking with them, but also sticking with the coach Spawn, who I've always held in like high esteem, having worked with him and covering him in the league, and now winning in his first split. And Spawn, I think, got a lot of praise. I mean, I always want to give praise to you guys as the players because you guys did play map very well. But I know Spawn, he's a disciplined coach, and he will drill that into you guys. Like, hey, this is what we're going to do in these moments of the game. And if not, I'm going to hold you accountable for it. Like TL, the success that you guys have experienced, I mean, to have you, Impact, and Umtu have been incredibly successful players throughout your career, the fact that you're also developing players alongside that has to be a part of the story. And neither build could have been possible without TL having a strong team where that did feature promotions both behind the scenes and on the squad itself. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's I can kind of agree that like there aren't enough JoJo peons. Like that is the goal. But even look at FlyQuest on the other side. They had Masu in his rookie split, who I think had a very respectable split. I know they lost in finals, but he was one of the stronger performers. And Lucio had a really rough final, but he was first team All-Pro and had a great regular season and had some good playoff games too. So, yeah, I mean, there are players out there. You just have to work with them. And in the case of TL, I know that 100 Thieves, rightfully so, got a lot of credit for holding on the quid. Credit to them for sticking with APA and Yawn. I know that you guys have always preached hard work behind the scenes, and Core, I know you work with those guys every day. They've always been grinders, and it really paid off in playoffs and the year you guys ended up having.
Yeah. I know how hard TL grinds because I will go to the Alienware training facility on a Sunday to play Magic the Gathering or on a specific day, and they'll be in there playing and scrimming and practicing solo queue and all that stuff while I am playing Magic the Gathering in the kitchen. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I mean, the guys are telling me, why don't you come office today? I'm busy. I told them like busy today.
They're still trying to get you in. That's great. Yeah, it's awesome to see how hungry players are. And like this stands in such stark contrast too to this narrative for a long time. And I mean, whatever, we can talk about Champions Queue as perhaps evidence of this narrative. But on the other hand, this idea that all North American players are lazy and they don't want to work or they don't want to play or they aren't interested in practicing, like it is really cool to see how dedicated these all the TL players have been, and I'm sure the FlyQuest players too, to their craft to get to where they are. So yeah, I think it's good. Really like your take here, caller. Is there anything that you would like to add here at the end?
Not really. The one thing I did miss was the promotions from the Challengers roster. You guys mentioned Yon and APA on TL, and then Masu on FlyQuest. And I think we all realize now how valuable those players are to those teams. So that just kind of bolsters my point a little bit more. So I'm glad you guys mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, so first I wanted to shout out Ball State University Esports, and specifically the League of Legends team, which I am a part of. We just won our conference and are heading to CLOL, so...
Congratulations!
Are you top 32?
Yep, top 32. So we are out of the ESC conference.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I got my Miami, Ohio shirt on now.
Ooh.
Fun fact, the data analyst that Hatham works with, or Core works with Hatham, I coach with them, but... Congrats on winning. That's a tough league. I know Buffalo is still a really hard out in there.
Yeah, that's who we beat in the finals. 3-1. So
nice. Congrats.
Yep.
That's super cool.
Then,
hey, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And then secondly, I wanted to shout out a friend of mine, ZT Quiz, who's always been my biggest supporter throughout my collegiate career. So big shout out to him as well.
Nice.
Thanks again. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
That was super wholesome.
Yeah. On to the next caller as Cubby goes off to grab them. Thank you to, let's see, Dan297, Melon Dog for 35 months, Yako Maniac for 6, and then over on YouTube, I think I shouted out Tyler, but thank you, Tyler, just in case. And then Tic Tac Stew with the 99-cent super chat. Thanks to the folks who've been throwing super chats and memberships over on YouTube. I should mention, by the way, that there are folks have been able to watch some interviews that I did last week over on YouTube. They've been up for members only for a little bit, so thanks to everybody who's been becoming a YouTube member and checking stuff out there. We got T-Bone here. T-Bone, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Long Island.
Long Island. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take is that while Thanatos is a good pickup for Cloud9 and is an improvement over Fudge, I don't think that that's going to solve the main problems that the team has. Personally, I think that the main problem that this roster had was that JoJo and Blabber just don't see the game the same way, and they don't know how to play together. So maybe picking up Reaper, maybe Reaper can get those two players on the same page, but I just don't think they'll be able to hands diff the other teams, especially like when you have teams like Immortals, who all it takes is for like one thing for them to go well. Maybe they figure out one thing and they start doing a lot better. So while Thanatos is good, he's not going to fix the other problems.
Corey, you were laughing a little bit during this. What do you agree with this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Because I'm expecting Thanatos perform as good as like Catcher. So he's gonna be a very solid player.
As good as Castle, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Catcher was pretty good. He's a very solid player.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm expecting Thanatos is gonna be similar. And I think like even this year, G9 was not the horrible team as an individual. They were really strong. Their bar lane is not weak. And then their mid lane is very strong in lane. And then Fudge was solid in the most part. So I'm kind of agree with the caller's point that, I mean, not only mid and jungle, I think sometimes I'm very curious what they are thinking as a team. Like they don't have like any team play or like team development. So I was thinking during the season, if you give some complicated comp to the C9, they're gonna lose because they cannot do their job. Like if they have a like easy comp, if they win lane, win game, they're gonna do well because it's just easy. Everybody just play the lane. So I'm not sure who's going to the head coach, but if someone is going to the head coach, and then try to make the C9 as a team, then can be strong.
Yeah. What do you think of the coaching change? Obviously, we don't know who's going there, but do you think it makes sense that they had to change a coach, Core?
I think since their biggest problem is not playing as a team, when you are not playing as a team, having a strong, charismatic coach help a lot. So I think it can change. It can be changed.
Yeah. And we should say that it's been reported, I think, by a couple different outlets now that Reaper is supposed to be coming in the coaching position, but I don't think it's been officially announced yet.
C9 had fun with that on socials, so
yeah.
That's about.
I mean,
I will say the funniest part about the Thanatos thing was that when patch 14.7 came out, I saw APA in a game. And the first game he spawned in, he's like, "Oh, Fudge is in solo queue. That's new." And then the news was reported like later in the day, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's like the most legitimate thing that I could see to like actually legitimize this."
Yeah. That's really funny.
Yeah, but I do agree with the caller. I mean, I was here on the last episode. I said that I think that you needed to change Fudge because I thought Fudge really lost his confidence. And honestly, Fudge, like a new start for him. I think very highly of Fudge as a player. I was a Fudge defender of top. I think that a lot of flack just went to him because it was easy. But Also, I watched some of those games, and I could not explain how they approached Olaf as a champion without being irrational. Because like building the split push build and TPing to every fight was just crazy to me. I think that you have to like actually feast on that champion, and I don't know what happened. So I think if Fudge could like build up his confidence again, that maybe a new home would be good for him with that. And then I also said that I would change either like mid or jungle. So I do know that I know one plan that C9's considering, and I think that the Reaper change will make more sense if that plan ends up coming to fruition. So we'll see what happens, Travis.
Wait, what is it?
Leak.
Oh, we want leaks?
What's the rumor?
Well, with Thanatos coming in, I think it makes sense to have a coach that is able to speak both English and Korean. That just makes sense, right? It might not just be needed though for Thanatos, is what I've been hearing. So we'll see.
Oh, like Thanatos might not be the only.
Potentially, who knows?
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, also I think Berserker is also underperforming because he's not getting proper resource. Like he's not playing how he wanna play. So if Leopard is coming to the C9, then maybe Berserker can feel free to talk to him because they're both speaking Korean, and then can play Berserker's way.
Yeah. So I found it pretty interesting that if that does end up being the path that C9 went, like for me, the learning of you guys winning core was I actually think that like with both you and FlyQuest, the academy or challengers pieces you had kind of enabled the roster to be what it was, and building around those. And it'd be interesting if C9 went for a like more Korean heavy approach, because obviously your team also does feature like 3 Koreans. Like you and Impact have been here forever in the league, but for me, I actually thought that like both teams were well-rounded in the sense that like those pieces were meant to kind of enable the rookies and make them comfortable, and like hopefully you can help them improve and then get to a level where you can win in playoffs. So yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much, T-Bone, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
I wanna make just a suggestion for, I don't know if you have any connections with the LCS, Travis, anybody in big places, but can the YouTube stream please stream in 4K? I don't know why it stops at 1440p. That's so weird to me. It looks better than all the other leagues because the LCS is the only one that streams at 1440p. But I watch the LCS on my couch on my big TV, and it looks terrible at low resolutions. So please 4K. I don't know if that's difficult, but
yeah, I wonder if it's because the games are probably not being. Well, yeah, I just wonder how well they could do it. I also know that whenever you're going through these like massive studios, it's maybe hard because all you need is one component that can't do 4K, and that ends up being an issue. Is LCS the only one that's doing 1440?
LCK does not. I don't know if, I feel like LEC is not as well. I just know that LCK, the English on YouTube, is not doing 1440p.
Yeah, because I also noticed 1440. I don't know when it started, but I did start to really appreciate
that. Was recent too.
Yeah. I mean, I felt for a long time that it was kind of crazy that they were not going higher, and it is like a pretty nice perk for YouTube because they don't. Can Twitch do 1440? I don't know if it can.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, either way, thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate the suggestion. I mean, he listens to the show, or so he claims every week. So if maybe he will have heard you suggest this, and then that will have already gotten to him. So thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Have a good day, guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Hey, Core, do you ever remember like scrimming against the D+ team, like the academy team? Because they were really good with Thanatos, Lucid, Polbay. And I know they were scrimming a lot of the world's teams.
No, we haven't
no.
been versus them.
Okay. That was like the old roster. I had a couple people DM me like, so this Lucid guy is really good. So, and that was the team that was Thanatos Polbay.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I heard they were doing well, but
Yeah.
I haven't screen versus them, so I don't rate Thanatos as high as other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been interesting to sort of hear the mixed reception because I think double lift was Cubby, you're a zoomer, right? The term is glazing, right? That's the term. Yes, I know. Double lift was glazing Thanatos, but then I think some other folks have been more skeptical. So, either way.
Maybe 100 Thieves was weak in the scream.
Yes, exactly.
Gave him the Krispy Kreme.
Yeah.
All right. Next caller.
All right, off you go. Thank you to Bob and George for the gifted gifted membership over on YouTube, and then Snow Leopard for the 5 gifted memberships. Very generous from both of you, and very much appreciated. Thank you to Swede for gifting us up to Tactical, and then the one and only Corbin. Thank you for the 25 months. Also, hello Ixpix. I see in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Always appreciated. I have noticed that a lot of millennial terms often sound very sus, to use another millennial term. Skizzle is here. Skizzle, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Fairfax, Virginia.
Fairfax, Virginia. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So this has been reported. It's not been officially confirmed, but it was reported that Dig fired their coach. I think that's mostly their management.
I don't think it was just reported.
I
think he's off the. I need to check, but I think he was taken off the roster database.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. I just read Sheep Esports, so that's all I have to go off of. So it's reported that they fired him, and I think that that's just kind of ridiculous, to be honest.
Oh wait, sorry. I was thinking of the Immortals coach. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, Enatron's still on there.
Yeah.
So Dig got like 5th out of 8, which I mean is pretty good considering they literally lost in the playoffs to like the team that won the whole thing, and beat out every other team that was also like going low eco. And just in general, I feel like their problem was roster construction. Like they put a rookie LCS jungler with a mid who can't speak English, which I think is just, and then you see they had communication problems and messed up mid game. So overall, I just think that it was just poor roster construction. And then Dig just decided to punt the coach instead of make harder decisions.
Yeah, I guess if the Dig coach is out, I had not even noticed this, or I had missed this report from Sheep. I guess if Dig is out, then we have almost a 50% roster or 50% coach turnover rate in between spring and summer, right? Because we've got Immortals, C9, and then Dig would be 3 of the 8 teams.
With money being down in the league, Travis, seems like a lot of people are falling on the sword,
Yeah, I guess, but also, I don't know. Yeah, I get it with Mithy, even though it's weird because I heard so many people say that like he was not the issue. Mm-hmm. But I guess it's just easy to, well, hey, you have great players and they're not winning, like, kill the coach. But I don't know. A lot of the stuff is interesting. What do you think, Cubby? What do you make of this?
I think that Dig, like, they had this identity of, hey, Tomo and Isles are actually pretty decent in lane, and we can try and play through them. But I will say that in mid game, there were a lot of times where I saw, like, their team just on different pages in terms of what fights to take or what lanes to play through. And I'm not sure if that was a coach issue or kind of what the call was hinting at, an in-game comms issue. And to be fair, like, that is something that I give APA a lot of credit for, which Core would have experienced last summer. Like, APA came in as a rookie, and that guy actually like wasn't a complete liability on map in a team where he was not able to speak the same English or the same language as the rest of the team, right? And that's really tough to do. And I think it's interesting that Dig, like, I know that XU, and I don't know where Dove's English is at, but there were a lot of times where I saw XU go for a play that either wasn't there or he wasn't, like, people weren't able to follow up or vice versa. There were a lot of times where Dig did look desync to me. So I found that, I do think that it's, I don't know how you fix that. If their approach is coaching, then it is what it is, but yeah.
And speaking of APA just raided the channel,
yeah,
which is awesome. So thank you, APA. Glad you're here supporting your teammate. It was very much appreciated. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Dig roster, Core? Especially since as somebody who's had like the multilingual rosters before.
Yeah, I mean, I talk highly about Thanatos even before we play versus Dig, and then after I play versus Dig. I don't know, because they are very comfortable. Jungle and Bali is the only one comfortable talking to them. Their jungler was very good at ganking bot, or playing for Basai. So I was impressive a little bit, but like some of us said after Dignitas series, this was the one of the easiest game ever or series ever. So I mean that series was probably hitting them really hard. But I don't think there's no big problem. I mean, someday they don't play well, someday they play well. I mean, I think last week of the LCS, how they performed was actually one of the best team in the LCS. So I don't think there's a big problem. There's just up and down.
It's funny that both Immortals and Dignitas have made coaching changes that I feel like people have wholly been like kind of disappointed. It's funny that these two teams that people get frustrated with are the two teams that like right now. I mean, Cubby, you were frustrated with the Immortals coaching change, and then here we are seeing like the Dig coaching change, which also a lot of people feel may not be necessary. I don't know. It's just kind of wild. Do you think, Core, that the team, like the roster is not constructed well, or like there's language issues that could be occurring, like the caller was suggesting, especially with the mid lane stuff?
Not sure. I think Dignitas and Immortals both. The strength of those teams is that they have a solid solo laner, so they don't lose lane. They don't lose lane too hard, and then they are very solid in the solo lane, so that the other players can play well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, maybe because of that, I mean, these two teams are not having good middle lane game in terms of team play. I mean, I think there is up and down.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were that bad. I mean, this LCS, especially during the regular split, every team was pretty close. I honestly thought the two worst teams in the LCS were NRG and then 100 Thieves.
Really? That is a spicy statement, especially the 100 Thieves part.
Yeah, I mean, by end of the season and then going into the playoffs, I thought NRG and then 100 Thieves were the bottom two. Every other team was pretty like above them. But to be honest, 100 Thieves played better than I thought. So I think they're just better in the stage.
Yeah. That is wild. Cubby, what do you think of that? You look distracted and lost.
I find the 100 Thieves hate in the back half just to be like very funny. I mean, I will say that part of the fun of this league, this split, unironically, was the fact that there were 14 best of ones for everyone, because that is not enough. And the like disparity for the 100 Thieves that we saw on stage, and then what every other team had to say about them behind the scenes, did end up being, I think, kind of crazy because there were just less games, right? Mm-hmm. But the team that did show up in regular season, like they had some games where they found nice comebacks and had good setups. But I will say that, like in the video I made about the rookies, I was concerned about laning, and I think that as teams got in the playoffs and were able to really prep for them, we did see those concerns emerge. So I'm not really concerned. Like if like Core's approaching this is like, hey, Dig and IMT, they actually had laners that could win their lanes, and I look at 100 Thieves, and that really wasn't as much of the case. So yeah, I don't know if they were bottom two. They still made playoffs, but they definitely were ranked higher in the standings where they should have been based on their play, and playoffs like proved the players right in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Cubby, do we have any calls about the any more like roster changes or anything like that, or should we sort of, because I've got a couple of questions for Core. I'm trying to decide if we should tee up in this call.
No, you can go for it now. This is the only roster change one.
So there's obviously a lot of players that have been sitting on the sidelines during spring, and now potentially Fudge is looking for a place as well, you know, alongside players like Licorice and Spica and all that. What do you think, Core? Do you think we'll see any of these players get into the league in summer? I'm just like really wondering how many teams are looking to make roster changes, and with C9 looking to like Thanatos, right? It's just a very different situation.
Yeah, I mean, Licorice, Fudge, Pika, Japan, they all deserve to be in the LCS, but I don't know which team they should fit in. But yeah, I mean, Fudge, he was third place top laner. Licorice was the first team last year. Japan, more people started thinking how important Japan was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and Spica is well. He's grinding well.
Yeah. I'm just really curious and really hopeful that these players end up on a team, because I think they're all really great personalities and really fun to have in the league, and so I really missed them during spring, and not having them in summer I think would be a bit of a tragedy. I just don't know. But it's interesting that we've heard a lot of like coaching changes and stuff, but we haven't heard player changes, and maybe that's just because, well, other than the C9 one, and maybe that's just because it's early days still. But like I don't think NRG or 100T are going to making changes. Like if we already know the C9 change, or at least C9 is not looking to pick up other North American players, and obviously Fly and TL aren't, then there's like 3 teams maybe that are capable of making roster changes for summer, and so it's just not a lot of opportunity for these all these different players that are going to be looking for teams. So
I think money is going to play a part of it too. Like I think some of the teams won't want to make roster changes because it's going to be bonus costs for them to like have new contracts, or in the case of Thanatos, I mean that's a visa, right? And that's going to be another expense, and I don't know if teams can really afford it. But man, I look at the top lane pool of just people on the sideline, like allegedly now Fudge. I know a lot of fans want to see Licorice back. Someday for me is like one of my all-time favorite players.
Oh yeah, someday. And he announced he reiterated he's looking for ways to play.
And then Surdy was a top laner for FlyC, and like that guy's really good. I would love to see him in LCS. He would have been on that EG roster, and like he's someone that I feel like could get a shot too. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. Top lane is going to be a war zone to see kind of who moves where. Will be really interesting.
Yeah, makes you wonder if like this league could support 10 teams. It would be interesting to see what an LCS with 10 teams in it would look like, because it does feel
Core,
like...
do you like 8 teams better, or did you like 10? Do you have?
No, I'm just kidding. I do like 8 teams more, but I do think that... Well, one, I think it's really disappointing that we went to 8 teams at the same time that we gutted the entire Challenger and Academy system, and it's funny because the messaging this time last year when all that was going down was like, all right, guys, we've patched something together for summer. And then you thought like that this thing that they had like cobbled together as an emergency solution would be like the summer solution. But to my understanding, it's not like they changed very much, right? For going into spring, they just kind of rolled it forward.
Yep. But I mean, to be fair, all the orgs said that they would invest in talent when they destroyed their own team too, and none of them did. So there were a lot of broken promises.
Yeah. Such a good point. Like all these teams that were like, and we're still committed to figuring out ways to invest in talent and doing all this stuff, and then continuing to shout out FlyQuest and TL for keeping
I'm okay with the 8 team, but I really hate these little games.
You hate the 14 games?
Yeah, I'm with you, Core. Yeah.
I mean, 18 games at least feels okay because I'm used to it. But it goes to the 14 games. Oh, it's too low.
Yeah. I would love to see more play between the secondary system and the primary system, the LCS system. Like I think an interesting way to add more games is to have the bottom, not necessarily promotion relegation, but to have something where the teams, like could you build an interesting team with like Licorice and Sven and Spica and I don't know, a couple other players, and have them be the top of the challenger system and have them compete against LCS teams at some point in time during the season,
They're welcome to, compete in OQs and try and qualify for the league.
No, but I just mean like it's probably less interesting to them than if they do get there are ways for the LCS teams to face them,
I don't
Yeah.
think that'll ever happen. Like even the FlyQuest Best of the West thing, like they could only do it with their challengers team that they put together. There's still the riot rule in place.
Yeah, but I'm saying
where,
Riot could
yeah,
build this. You know what I mean? Like, why
they
not?
could.
Like, as a solution to the only 14 games and only 8 teams, like, hey,
Yeah.
use this as an opportunity to highlight some of the better teams in your secondary system. You sound so defeated,
Yeah.
Kobe.
I mean, I'm defeated because we could have done this for years, and I'm also defeated because like you had people like Mr. Beast that wanted to make tournaments with LCS players, and like Riot told them no. And look, like that was years ago. Look at how much things have skewed into the creator market now, and these guys still have interest.
Well,
and I think like,
Mr. Beast doesn't have the money of, international countries, Covey. So we have to wait for the countries to come in and pay us.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Yes, we could take calls on that too. That could be a fun
I
one.
know
Yeah.
you and I if we're getting coffee tomorrow, we need to talk about it because I have an idea of how I want to handle that on the show. But
Yeah.
but I do think that you're right in that they could have done this for years. I do think, hey, now we're hearing from Core on the show, 14 games is not enough. A lot of fans think 14 games is not enough. There's not a great solution to, like, Academy right now is gutted. Why operate an Academy team? Why do this? You can't get promoted up or whatever. If we did some way to if we had some way to better integrate the top teams from that system into playing against the LCS teams, adding in some extra games, getting some good players there that could get some attention from some of the top teams or have some reason to play, to build something, I think you could make that product more compelling and also add additional games. Now, Core, I don't know if you're in the if you probably want more games against C9 and FlyQuest than you do necessarily like the 9th best team in North America, but at the very least it could help the region, I think, a little bit. So
Yeah, I mean, as long as there is a more game that can divide the team by their skill bar.
yeah.
I mean, every game is just too critical during the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart goes out too. Like, I know that we had a couple teams that got relegated in the promotion tournament, which, I mean, promotion tournament's an exciting product on its own, but like there was one player, Sajed, he won with Fly C, but he used to be a part of Lit, and he was doing co-streams. He was interviewing the guys. It was very funny because like they all are friends and they're teams and they're like laughing at each other. But when Lit got relegated, like there was a couple players who were on there like, hey, I can't play League anymore. Like there's just not enough money. Like I have to like go figure out life, and it's really tough. Like with just how much the money's been downsized. A year ago at this time, there were 23 teams that LCS teams ran because there were 3 orgs that had secondary teams. Now there are only 2 orgs that have second teams, and NRG is partnered with one. And it's been also with the requirement being removed for California. It used to be your worst contract, you're making California minimums, which is still like 65K out here. And usually that included housing and or food. And now it's like there are players like that get offered 2K a month, and that's a good deal. Like just to give you guys an idea of how much this has been downsized. And then outside of that, it's nothing. You are playing for $100 a month if you're lucky. So I mean, if we're gonna really talk about the problem, like I know that like in the video, Steve said that like there weren't enough players from NA promoting fast enough to make the system worth it. Well, it's really tough to ask kids to grind for $100 a month, especially if they don't make it before they're out of college and then college hits. Like that's just not sustainable. And also, this is a game where, and we talked about how hard TL's been working to win. You can't work hard if that's your income. Like you have to do school, you have to have a job, you have to do other things, and that's really, really difficult to figure out. So
yeah. Hey Skizzle, thanks so much for the call. I know we went all over the place with it, but anything here anything we did not address before I give you your shout out?
Yeah, I had one other part of the take about like would this replace Rich and Dev with this. Okay, that would go on too long.
That's good.
I'll say I just wish some of these bottom teams would consider that like the development team, right? Because if you're Dig, right, and you're staring at, I mean, obviously Energy didn't do well. We're saying the top 4 teams that finished right now. I guess if you're staring at Energy, C9, FlyQuest and TL preseason, I don't think you're going to beat them, right? So I feel like they would consider more like development to me. That's what I wish they would consider. Like, okay, if we pick up Surdy and Surdy's plays bad for a year and is maybe good then A, he would be willing to stay longer, and B, he can speak English to all of our teammates, and maybe that work out better. Maybe we're worse in the short term, but it just feels like teams won't do that. And I wish that like bottom teams like Immortals would consider that versus like just bringing in Dove, who might be able to win lanes now, but like if he can't communicate with the jungler and can't continue to like and won't really necessarily get better because he's been playing for a while, then you're not really solving any problem, right? You're just continuing being sixth, you know.
Yeah, no, I get it. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out my wife Liz, of course. I forgot to do this last time, Travis, but it's a fellow StarCraft boomer. Shout out ASL Season 17. Brood War's still going on.
Damn.
If you're bored of Korean StarCraft, or bored of Korean League of Legends, excuse me, which I kind of am, because LCS is over. It's like, watch Brood War, man. It's cool. They've been playing that game for 26 years, and they're still doing it. It's impressive. So,
yeah, I got a chance to see some StarCraft players recently and StarCraft personalities, and it was really fun to see a bunch of them. So, either way, thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
all right, thanks.
Okay. All right, we got 2 more callers to go. Might be a bit of a shorter episode this week, but it's how it goes whenever we don't have as much going on.
We have a really interesting last one. We got the inspired take next, but the last one's really interesting.
Awesome. Well, off you go. Thank you to Slawcat for gifting a sub and Juju Beans 420 for subbing with a prime. Thank you, everybody, for your subs. Boggs is here. Boggs, where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Houston.
Houston, what do you want to talk about on the show?
All right, so my take, the drama take of the week. The inspired interview, of course. I feel like it was super overblown, It's like people made a lot of... The Reddit thread has like 1,000 comments. It was all over Twitter. I feel like it just wasn't a good... It wasn't a good way... People didn't react to it in a good way, I guess, yeah. Because I feel like, it was an interview that was... Correct me if I'm wrong, it was right after finals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And... I mean, he was obviously very upset, and he took a lot of responsibility on himself in the interview, as well as, reviewing his teammates in a critical way that I feel like actually helps people to improve. I know that people think it should have been private and maybe done in like a team review, but I understand why he didn't have the filter on because it was right after finals. And also, just to follow up, I wanted to ask Core his opinion on trash talking like that, or being critical of your teammates in like a public setting, whether on Twitter or in an interview, and if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, especially like just directed towards your teammates, not other teams.
Let's start with that, Core. What do you think?
I mean, I think it is really bad thing, first thing first, because next time let's imagine if APA meet the Jensen next time, the first thing APA says is like, hello, bigger mid. Like, it's gonna attack Jensen a lot. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think what he said is just bad, but the way he said and yeah, I think the way he said, the how he said, is just not professional.
Yeah. I think there were 2 reasons why this thing blew up so much. I think one, we were kind of slowly building in this direction for a while, where like the personalities were going Bwipo and I mean Bwipo even on the show was very outspoken, but a lot of these guys were saying a lot of really big things, especially about other teams, and predisposing a lot of fans in the LCS to not be happy with them.
He thought you guys were going to be easier than C9, which was fun. So, yeah.
But regardless, there were a lot of people who were like, oh, these guys are trash talking, these guys saying all this crazy shit. I don't like them. They're shit talking my team, etc. So there were a lot of players or fans who were predisposed to these players. The other thing is, I think this was the lowest drama split in the LCS in like half a decade. Like, I was talking about this with Mark, where it's like, last year we had player walkouts. We've had, Yeah, we've had player walkouts. We've had
Ben didn't shake a hand.
Yes, those handshaking. There was normally like a crazy roster change happening like the second or third week of the split. Like there's all sorts of crazy drama going down in the LCS at any given point in time. Roster changes or visa issues. Like there's just normally a lot of stuff to talk about, and this split. And one way it was great because we really just got to focus on the personalities and on the players. But it was funny because I'm like, man, normally by this point in time in the season, there's been some crazy dramatic episode of Hotline League where we get tri-star viewership because everybody's calling in to weigh in on this like insane thing that has happened, and there just wasn't. And so I think the finals end, and I guess there was the double F Dodo drama, but that was. That didn't involve any direct players. It was referencing something that happened in the off season. Like I don't know. It was the writers, and it was a tired plot. I guess I will say.
I mean,
it's like the writers are bringing back something from a previous year.
That was lame, man.
Yeah.
Dodo had a banger tweet though after finals. That was fun.
Yeah. So I just think that like what happened was you had all these people that were looking for a reason to be angry with these players. Then you had the team not win, and so then their own fans were also frustrated. And then this interview hits, and it's not a good look. And I agree with Core that it's not professional, and like if you're a player, you should probably not like pick up the microphone and immediately start shit talking your own teammates. Mm-hmm. But also like I continue to see people talking about it days and days afterwards, and then eventually Papa Smithy put out his statement, and I was like, man, like this. I agree with the caller in some sense that it was a much bigger conversation than I think it would have been in previous years, in part because of just the culmination of all these different factors.
Well, I think this is worse than how people think, to be honest.
Oh, really? You think it's underrated? Like players should be or fans should be more mad?
I understand why people are firing. It's not because there's nothing else to eating the drama. Because like everything trash talk to the enemy team, like, or my enemy, is very fun to watch and good to see. But trash talking to your teammate in public is very, very, very critical. I mean, even Summit said something about I can't play with a 6-1 trick something. Even after we, did not play. After we like knew we were not playing together anymore, it still hit a lot.
Yeah.
But if that's ongoing, going into.
Oh, your audio cut out, Core. I think you muted accidentally.
Yeah, we lost Core.
Oh, yeah. I doubt there's no impact on the team, like in a team chemistry, and they need to play the MSI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, okay, that's a fair point. You've convinced me. I mean, I think that is fair. It's hard for me, Core, because like that team seems like the type of team where all of them kind of shit talk each other, or they're like very used to this type of stuff, and like the narrative before had been like, oh yeah, they might pop off in interviews or they might talk about each other on pros, but then they're all cool and like the other players don't care. And so I think that was part of it, was like I had seen a lot of this sort of meta conversation around how FlyQuest functions, and so in my mind it was maybe not as big of a deal. So
yeah, I mean, I understand how. I mean, the thing I was happy to see, because I'm on the enemy team, is that I can see how FlyQuest looks like going on internally, because Jensen is not the perfect player. There's a thing he's good at, there's thing he's not good at. And but Jensen, I don't think Jensen was the main reason they lost in the final. And when he's talking to Jensen, like, I mean, Jensen might be the sandbag in the team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
from the enemy team side, it's good to see from me.
You're like, this
Yeah.
is good news for me.
So I got a couple things about this, right? One, I know that FlyQuest, like their initial response was, hey, like we do kind of use this language in the team. And frankly, like that doesn't surprise me. And I also want to, give Digon props. Like he's had some interviews where he has gotten like players that are like willing to speak with him. Like, and he's had some good interviews where people are comfortable enough to really share their thoughts. And I think that like the entire crux of the issue with Inspired, like I'll use the example. So, in the game where you guys played TF Core, he had there was a moment the last fight where Tibbers was dropped on TF and TF had QSS. Now, I've VOD review the games on my channel, and for whatever reason, my finals VOD review like it popped off, like got shared in some Discords. It's like at 2K viewers, you usually get like 10 viewers on it, but that's been kind of fun. In my VOD review, I went back through and I looked through a couple of the moments that Inspired talked about. And when I saw that moment, I was like, oh, they didn't hit tab, they didn't see QSS, like they've all like this game is like it was already a pretty lost game, but yeah, that game's lost. Like when you drop that on TF, and they could have gotten a reset on you as Nautilus if they committed to a different side of the fight. So, like in the interview, Inspired is not wrong when he says that, and I don't have any issue with Inspire bringing that up because like that is one example. But I think the entire issue of it was that the feeling of the interview, a lot of it was like Inspire was like, oh yeah, I didn't play my best either. Like I didn't have my best day. And he accepts responsibility kind of, but the emotional crux of the interview was my mid laner played bad. Or like we didn't play aggressive enough. Like we didn't open up the windows enough. And a lot of that, like his emotional aspect was on Jensen. Now, Inspired's a great player. And I'm sure that like he can look back at his VODs and accept his own mistakes. But if you flip the emotional crux of this, and he's like, oh man, like I didn't get a reset on Viego in 2 fights, and like we lost off that. And I also think Jensen like could have had some better windows, like he could have like opened up more things. Like he didn't the play against APA, like in the end game. Like if he waits there, we can get a kill. But I could have communicated. Like if the emotional crux is on him, it's fine. But it was on Jensen, and that's why it rubbed everyone the wrong way. I really don't have any issue with anything that he said. It was more so how he said it that is the issue, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So like I think it kind of got blown out of proportion because of that. And like if Inspire just flips that, because I'm with you, Core. Like if you're a team, the last thing you need is outside factors. Like I talk to players and I'm like, dude, I would mute. Like we might be friends. Like I talked to APA. I've covered him for 4 years. If I were APA, I'd block my ass. Like I'd mute everyone in the scene. Like I would only focus on like what's going on in the team. I don't need any outside factors like that, right? So if you are in the team and contributing to that, like that sucks. Like no matter how you look at it, right? And for anyone saying that like it's again any other job, like it's toxic, like the workplace is toxic. Yeah, I mean that's wrong, but this is a competition, and I'm sure that there have been way worse things that have happened behind the scenes in other teams, and everyone's been okay with it. Like you can be okay with it at the end of the day. I do think that like some of what FlyQuest was saying to like push water under the bridge, I'm sure like everything will be okay, but this shouldn't have to be a discussion, and that's the issue, and that's like really like this shouldn't be an issue for FlyQuest, but it is whether they like it or not. So yeah.
Boggs, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here?
Yeah, I just want to say really fast, I don't support the way he was talking on pros. I don't think you guys touched on it too much, but I'm pretty sure in that same interview he talked about Quid, and I think the way he was talking about the MVP situation, I didn't really like that either. So yeah, I mean, I agree with what you guys are saying, but I also think it was definitely overblown by people not focusing on the other parts. Like I love Whippo, but he kind of cosplayed a control ward part of the game, and it was like it's pretty bad.
I mean, Impact ruined 2 of those lanes with Cassante Q3s.
That's
so
true. That is
props
true.
to Impact on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I don't know. It was a weird like I think it was blown out of proportion a little bit, but I think if like the emotional crux of it was different, no one would really care.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Travis Gafford Industries, now self-sponsored. Shout out to my girlfriend. Shout out to Randall Boggs, and shout out to Ryan. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yep. Bye.
All right, we got one more call to go. Shout out to all of you for continuing to sponsor this. As the caller just said, we don't have a sponsor right now, but thank you to Steven over on YouTube who just dropped a $50 super chat. Thank you, Steven. That's very generous of you. And then over on YouTube, I see Mohica and Gaiden with the resubs. So thank you all for the folks, or for all the support, folks. Cubby is grabbing our last caller right now, and then we will be winding down the show. Maybe a little shorter this episode, but obviously it's been a bit of a quieter week. So, but don't go anywhere after the stream. I will, if you're watching live, please support, because I will be doing a little bit of a sponsor thing afterwards. I'll be hanging out with all of you, and we can just chat about stuff. But doing a sponsor thing, that will be helpful. So, thank you all for continuing support. It looks like Cubby's having a little bit of issues with the last person doing some audio checks, but we'll see if they can get that figured out as we go on. But yeah, also YouTube, if you're watching live on YouTube, please do me a favor and come over to Twitch afterwards. I know that's maybe not your favorite thing, but I will have to be streaming exclusively on Twitch after this. And you being on the channel on Twitch, even if you're just kind of chilling with me in the background, really, really, really helpful. Either way, our next caller is here. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Glaurung, calling from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Glaurung from St. Paul, Minnesota. What do you want to talk about on the show?
And so, kind of a lot of the context comes from a couple of the calls last week. One, a way to encourage specific team fandom, and another one just trying to get the LCS out of the studio on different road shows. And so the idea is that week 6 of Summer Split, Valorant's taking over the LCS studios, and Team Liquid gets to decide what city to go to for the week. So a much smaller than just for finals, small arenas like you had talked about in a couple ways, but to give as a way to celebrate a team, and working with the team to try and figure out where to go. At college that one of the players might have been at, a hometown of a player, and trying to, one, build some kind of soft, I'd say, geolocation and fandom that way. And then also just getting more fans and a chance to see LCS live, which I used to live in Southern California. I went to the studio a couple times. It's great.
Yeah. I really like this. I worry a little bit about the cost of it, especially because I think most road shows have to be planned out like way in advance so that you can get hotels and flights and all that type of stuff. And they'll also be doing a road show right afterwards for finals. But I like the spirit of it, which is like, how can we sort of embrace still bringing the show to different people and have, the celebrate whoever wins the spring split in a really cool way. But you were saying you'd want to see like all 8 teams go compete at a college or something for the weekend?
Ideally, but definitely something that can be changed, can be modified around there. And so there's a lot that different teams could do. Competing against Liquid could beat a local college team as part of a celebration. There's a banner to be hung. They could receive it that week. A lot of different stuff.
Yeah. Cubby, what you said you were very excited about this call, so why don't you go ahead and take it first?
I think it's a unique idea. Like, I think back to old school, like Season 3, Season 4, Season 5 LCS, Travis, where you'd have a week of LCS at MLG Dallas, right? And I remember the crazy CLG TSM game where, like, me and Tanso, like, had the backdoor or something on Elise. And you got a bigger, different crowd in that, and a lot of people saw the game. And I'm with you. I think that where the LCS is at right now, the fact we're limiting road shows is A, a bummer, and B, this isn't feasible. But also, I think this would be a really creative idea to, find a way to honor a team that won and give them a perk, which is kind of why I like it. So yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I worry about the turnaround time because you really have to do the whole thing in about 4 months, which I think is not as feasible.
Summer to spring's doable though. Summer to spring's doable. Yeah.
I do wonder. Oh, go ahead, caller.
Oh, I was just gonna also ask, or like, Going into an LCS week, is that something that would be a plus or more of a distraction? Would you want to have a bunch of extra events that you'd probably be asked to attend too, or would that be something that would take away from the matches that week?
Well, for me personally, at this point of my time, I'll be down to do anything excited, and then what fans like it. I mean, even though HS, like whatever HS is doing something, I mean, even what I was thinking during the spring split when we are playing in the prison.
The prison,
For the, yeah. For the like Valorant tournament or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I was thinking that this is kind of cool. I mean, the studio stage was kind of nice. That I was thinking that why did we have a 2 weeks break? I think we can just play here for 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, playing in a different city stage, it can be cool. I mean, especially when there's just something Valorant is happening at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder. So I do want to ask you, since we haven't had a chance to talk to the players, what was it like for you winning on the LCS stage instead of in an arena?
Oh, it feels a lot less fun,
Yeah.
obviously. I mean, I think so. Last year, even though we didn't win semi-final, that feels better than winning on the stage, because hearing the energy from the fans are very amazing. The having a like big stage experience is really just amazing.
Yeah. Losing semifinals on stage felt worse or felt better than winning finals in the studio?
During the moment is more fun.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, obviously, since I won, I feel very happy and I'm very comfortable. So I can't say after the game, but during the game, there was more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I'm not surprised. I do wonder, to your broader point, Cubby, about like the days whenever you used to go to MLG or go to IM or something along those lines. Like, I do wonder if something like that could happen again.
Yeah.
So, but I think the thing is, in the past, those events were often paid for by Riot instead of the TOs, for my understanding, or at least the cost. There was some cost sharing there at the very least, and I don't feel like Riot would do any cost sharing around that. So, I feel like that is you'd have to find people who are willing to pay Riot almost, or at least pay for the cost to like have all the stuff move. Yeah.
So we're heading to the other side of the hemisphere,
Yes,
the hemisphere,
yes,
right,
I
Travis?
know.
That's what we're going at.
Oh
Yeah.
no, it's not a Riot thing at all. They're not making any money from
absolutely
that
not.
whatsoever. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I like the idea of having a road show, but I just feel like it's going to be really tough to get. If Riot's not doing LCS Spring Finals road shows, I feel like it's very unlikely that they're going to be doing something in the middle of summer split. But I love the spirit of it, caller. Anything that you want to shout out here at the end?
Mo, would it be possible to just send 2 teams? Is that much cheaper?
Maybe. I think it's really difficult from a production standpoint, because then not only are you asking the LCS production team to like pivot to the as Core called it, the prison, but you are also asking them that same week to accommodate a completely different match that's happening off site. So I just feel like it's I mean, once you've built it for 2 teams, the cost savings, the cost to get all 8 out there is well, it's significant. It's not that much more from a percentage standpoint. So I don't think that's likely to happen, but we will see. Either way, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out you guys. Congrats, Core.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time. All right. Core, thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, if you're everybody watching live, please stick around. But this is towards the end of the show here, so no, I really appreciate you coming on. And I just want to say thank you for being so committed to the LCS for so many years. I know, like, between your organizing Champions Queue stuff back in the day, whenever that was still happening, you coming on the show last minute, you've just always been really invested in the space in a way that I feel like not every player always ends up doing so, including the players that are from our own region originally. And so, it's just really, really lovely to see somebody who's so committed to the league. So thank you.
Yeah, it's nice that I'm having fun, that people like it.
Yeah.
The thing I like, people like it, which is perfect.
Yeah, it's very well said.
It's infectious.
Yeah.
The highlight of working with you guys, like for the academy tryouts you did, was hearing you talk about Lucian Nami versus Ari Lulu, and you like rebooted the game like 2 or 3 times, like at the lane right. It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was like really fun hearing you like, I don't know, talk about that and try and teach the guys. It was a really good time. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. And congrats on winning. I know you said that you wanted this one a little bit more, and it meant a little bit more. So best of luck going overseas. Hope it's all safe travels and you guys have a good time over there.
So let's do some shout outs here at the end. Cubby, anything you want to shout out here at the end of the show?
Yeah, shout out to Supernova, because I'm now a scout for them. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So they were actually able to work with me because my contract, it says the end of spring split to the start of summer, so I can still cast, which is great. So I'm going to be sitting in a lot of combines and checking out kind of the young guys that are coming up. The project is more so for this upcoming spring in their roster, and they're partnered up with NRG, which is nice. And I think NRG is going to be a little bit more involved for that moving forward, as they kind of came in late in the process, to my understanding. But yeah, besides that, I'm just going to try and do all the VOD reviews possible. I've got 1 series left of NA, then I will have VOD reviewed every LCS and NACL game. And then I'm working on LEC, and I'm going to go over all the teams that are going to go to MSI. So that'll be really fun for me.
And where are those all going, if people want to watch them?
Yes, they're on my Twitch at CubbyXX, which is also my YouTube and also my Twitter. So. And
you upload some of these on YouTube, right?
Yeah, one of them, I guess, like, I usually don't get a lot of viewers, but I guess the one I did of the final, where TL31 Fly, it's like got 2K views, which is usually gets like 5 to 20. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been fun to at least more people hop in, and it's, as Core says, it's infectious to share what you enjoy. So
very
it's
true.
Fun.
Core, how about you? What do you want to shout out?
I want to shout out to the Team Liquid, having me for a long time, and I'm glad that I can finally giving Team Liquid another trophy.
That's awesome.
And thank you on that.
Yeah. Thank you for Core for coming on the show. Thanks to Steven, by the way, who sent another $50 super chat, and Ethan for becoming a member. Really appreciate it's incredible, $100 in super chats over the course of the show. Thank you, Steven. And thank you, Ethan, as well, for the membership. Everyone who is watching, just so you know, as I said at the beginning, I won't be able to make it to MSI this year, but we will be doing Hotline League still. I will be I'm partnered with Laughing Dragon to go to Command Fest and MXP San Francisco the weekend after this one. So the April 21st and 20th and 19th, I will be up in San Francisco in the Bay Area playing Magic the Gathering. If you like Magic the Gathering, or even if you're just trying to get back into it or whatever, maybe consider coming out and saying hi with me. I'm going to be doing some events there. You can check out their lineup to see me there, but I'll be there as well. And then newly announced, I will be going for my birthday weekend to Vancouver for Command Fest Vancouver. So if you live in the Vancouver area or the Canada area, please, all of Canada, fly over from Quebec to come hang out with me. That would be super swell. I'd love to see you all there. And then I'll be down in San Diego this weekend for a smaller con that there's some info up on my Twitter about if you'd like to go see me there. So either way, thanks everybody for hanging out. Really appreciate it. And we'll do another one of these episodes. We always do them 7 o'clock Pacific on Mondays. So we'll catch you all next Monday. See you there.